Hey guys, Xaryu here, recording a video to give you a general mage guide for Frost Mage and Legion because so many people wanted this. So I'm going to quickly go over my talents and my honor talents, but I do have two other videos that really go in depth about my talents and honor talents. And one thing I did want to mention is that for Arena, I am using Comet Storm, whereas in my talent video I say I'm using Glacial Spike. The Glacial Spike is very fun for battlegrounds or one-shots, but Comet Storm does seem better for Arena just because you don't need to get 5 icicles to cast it. Your icicles can be used sooner rather than building them up and going for a big one-shot. Other than that, I'm going with Bone Chilling, Cold Snap, and Canner's Flow, Ice Nova, Ring of Frost, Unstable Magic, and Comet Storm. If you want all the reasoning behind that, I do have a talents guide. Same thing with my honor talents here. I have Gladiator's Medallion, Mind Quickness, Prismatic Cloak, Temp Shield, Deep Shatter, and Ice Form. Once again, I do have an honor talent video as well on my YouTube channel if you want to check that out. The only time I switch any of these talents is for Dense Ice and Netherwind Armor against maybe a Warrior Rogue or Feral Warrior, some type of double physical damage dealers. This is much tankier. The Temp Shield Prismatic Cloak setup is better for any spellcasters because Blink, when you blink, you have spells have a chance to miss you. And Temp Shield, well, you just quite frankly don't want Dense Ice against a caster, and Temp Shield sometimes can save you. So this is my talent setup. This is my honor talent setup. Pretty much, I'm going to show you guys what you want to be doing to one-shot people or just want to be doing in general inside of an arena match. So you want to get your Water Elemental out. There's no Arcane Intellect, no buff or anything like that anymore. But generally your big burst is going to be Ice Form and then Frostbolt, Pet Nova, Ice Lance. And this is called a Shatter combo historically. And Burning Crusade that got coined the term Shatter combo because you do the your Frostbolt and your Ice Lance that both hit the freeze at the same time, which benefit from the critical strike. So you're going for a one-shot with your Frostbolt, your Pet Nova, and your Ice Lance. And the reason this does a lot of damage is because Deep Shatter increases your Frostbolt damage by 300% against frozen targets. Your Ice Form increases damage by another 50% for your Frostbolt all the time, not just frozen targets. And then here on your Ebon Chill, this is your artifact weapon. You have Chill to the Core, which is another 20% damage. You have a bunch more modifiers, but those are the main three. So we have Deep Shatter, Ice Form, and Chill to the Core. Okay, so we're going to go with a Shatter combo here with Ice Form, Frostbolt, Pet Nova, Ice Lance. This is a majority of someone's health. It's huge damage. So the next thing I want to go over real quick right before this ends is a Frostbolt and an Ice Nova. See, that Ice Nova doesn't do much damage itself, but it acts as a freeze. As we read the ability here on the bottom right hand side of the screen, it says frost damage to all enemies within 8 yards and freezing them in place for 2 seconds. So what you can actually do here, this doesn't work on live, but it does work on the beta. They changed the way shattering works. What you can do is cast a Frostbolt in the mid-air, Ice Nova. As the Frostbolt hits the target, it's going to be frozen, which means Deep Shatter is going to be in effect. 300% increased damage to your frozen targets. So basically the Mage playstyle right now is you're cycling between Frostbolt into a Pet Nova, Frostbolt into an Ice Nova, and you can even do a third combination of Frostbolt, and if they're close, into a Frost Nova. See that? As my Frostbolt was traveling to him, even though it's a short distance, I was spamming Frost Nova so that my Frostbolt, when it hit him, was actually affected by this Deep Shatter talent. Deep Shatter is how you're actually killing people. So you're basically just constantly rotating. Frostbolt, Pet Nova, Frostbolt, Ice Nova. And then eventually you're going to have a lot of icicles. See, you can unleash these icicles one at a time if you want consistent pressure. You can wait till you have a bunch of icicles all together. Like, just these icicles alone are going to do half of his life. I mean, they're incredibly, incredibly strong. So you can, wait to use them all at once with another Shatter combo, like Shatter, Frostbolt, Ice Lance, kind of a Shatter combo like that, or, etc. It just depends on the pace of the game. If you need a little more damage, or if you want to squeeze a huge burst out, etc. So yeah, cycling between Shatter combos with your Deep Shatter ability, between your Ice Nova, your Pet Nova, and your normal Nova. That is the the Legion playstyle that I've found most effective so far. Like I said, this could all change when the game actually goes live, but right now it seems incredibly effective to just be cycling between your 3 Novas, getting as many Frostbolts as you can into that, and pairing it with Ice Form. So here, altogether, it might look something like this, into something like this, and he's dead. And this is without Glacial Spike. This is actual damage you could get off in an arena. So let me duel him again. I do want to talk a little bit about Flurry, talk a little bit about getting Sheeps, and just talk about a little bit about all of my other abilities. So Flurry is the spell that replaced Frost Firebolt. And Flurry, here it is, unleash a flurry of ice shards, striking the target 3 times for a total of 80,000 damage, frost damage. Each shard reduces the target's movement speed by 70%. So here it is, if you cast it. Not super strong, but the way it gets its strength is here through Brain Freeze. So my Frostbolt has a 16% chance to make Flurry instant cast and apply Winter's Chill. What Winter's Chill does is it makes it as if the target were frozen for your 1 second. So basically, if you Ice Lance right after a Flurry, it's going to give you some nice damage. So we'll go ahead and Frostbolt here. As you can see, my Frostbolts, by the way, without this Deep Shatter, aren't very strong at all. You really need the Deep Shatter to make them very strong. So it's only a 16% chance, so it might take a second. Okay, and here we got our proc. So I'm going to go ahead and sheep him just so he doesn't die. And here, we're going to be able to Flurry, and immediately after, we want to Ice Lance because you have this that Flurry debuff. It's going to do a good amount of damage. Of course, there were Icicles hitting him too. But that's pretty much the only time you're ever using Flurry is Flurry to then Ice Lance immediately after. You always want to pair Flurry with an Ice Lance right after, and you're never really going to be hardcasting Flurry, it just doesn't do enough damage. So now to talk a little bit about Ebon Bolt. When does Ebon Bolt come into play? Ebon Bolt comes into play when you get kicked. Shadow Priests don't actually have a kick, but it is Shadow Frost damage. Deals 225,000 Shadow Frost damage, which means that if I'm casting a Frostbolt and someone kicks me, I can immediately start casting an Ebon Bolt. I don't have to wait. It's kind of like, you know, cast Frostbolt, they kick you, and you start casting a Polymorph. It's a different tree of magic. So if you get kicked in Frost, you can immediately start casting an Ebon Bolt, which is nice. That's kind of the old place that Frost Firebolt used to have. So Ebon Bolt, I use it when I'm kicked in Frost and I, you know, want to actually still cast damage. It's also decent to cast Ebon Bolt if you have cycled through all of your Novas. So say you've already used your Frostbolt pet Nova, you've already used, you know, the Frostbolt, all 3 Novas like this, and say the guy, you know, whatever, gets healed up. You have no other sources of damage. You've already used all of your procs, etc. Whoops, I didn't mean to kill him. Mage's damage is incredibly high, which is probably going to be turned down a bit. But say you don't have any of your Novas, and for some reason the guy's still alive, you know, maybe he got healed up, then is when you can cast an Ebon Bolt. So to show you what Ebon Bolt does real quick, I mean, it's pretty self-explanatory. It does a large amount of Shadow Frost damage, is not on the Shadow Tree, Frost Tree, which is very nice, and then it gives you 2 Fingers of Frost. So some pretty decent burst for not being on Frost Tree. So with Deep Shatter, all of your Fingers of Frost generators are gone, so this is the only way you're getting your Fingers of Frost, is through Ebon Bolt, which is fine, because you have those huge Frostbolt shatters. The playstyle is just much different. Even from your Orb, you're not getting any Fingers of Frost. That's another thing I wanted to touch on as well, is that your Orb is not giving you procs to it, and it's not even doing much damage, as you can see here. It's just a couple % of an entire life bar. So Frozen Orb might be kind of, with this spec at least, more of like a Blizzard, how Blizzard used to be to get someone out of stealth or to slow someone down. It's not really for damage anymore. So Frozen Orb isn't really for damage as much, so you don't see me using it very often. Once again, Ice Nova isn't for the damage, it's for the freeze, so your Frostbolt does more damage. And Comet Storm also doesn't do too much damage, but if someone is in a stun, you can still use it for instant burst, especially if you're being trained. It's not terrible damage, as you can see here. You know, about 11% of someone's life. Instant cast, it's not terrible, but, you know, not super crazy burst either. So your Comet Storm, your Ice Nova, stuff like that isn't how you deal damage, where, you know, back in WoD, that is how you deal damage. So it's completely different now. Dealing damage mainly through your burst or your Frostbolts, as you can see here. Just insane damage. Yeah, and that's pretty much it. As far as getting Sheeps, it's going to be much more difficult. You're going to have to, you don't deep freeze anymore to deep into Sheeps. You're going to have to be getting your partner to stun for you to go ahead and get a sheep. You're going to have to just spam sheeps to maybe end up landing one of them. You might have to sheep the DPS on the team so the healer comes out to dispel the sheep that you just did on the DPS, then sheep the healer, etc. So there's going to be, you have to use more clever ways to actually get your sheeps because you don't have deep freeze. Other than that, cycle through your Frost Novas to deal huge damage with this Deep Shatter. Only use Flurry when you get the Flurry procs. Pretty much only use Ebon Bolt when you get kicked in Frost, and Frozen Orb and Comet Storm don't do too much damage anymore, so you're just using them as filler abilities, or to, maybe get someone out of stealth, etc. That's pretty much Legion Beta Mage, guys. I've been having a blast with it. I'm loving this Shatter playstyle. I hope you guys enjoy it as well, and yeah, I'll see you guys next time.